One of the fundamentals of building a real estate business that's thriving is having a real estate farm. Today what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you the 7 fundamentals of real estate farming. I've often said that if you're building a real estate business, you're going to have the majority of your business coming from listings. The easiest and best way for you to build a brand, to be the expert for an area, is to do geographic real estate farming in a neighborhood or in an area. So what I want to do today is I want to break down for you the 7 fundamentals of what makes this the fundamental portion of your business that will help it thrive. The first step is choosing the right farm area. So we're going to start with a little bit of research here. We're going to identify some neighborhoods, maybe some condo developments or areas where there are enough houses that the time you spend and the money you spend is going to be worth it. You're going to get a high ROI on the time and the money that you spend. So what we're going to do is we're going to identify this, and we're going to look for a couple things. How many houses are in the neighborhood? How many condos are in the development? Whatever that number is, we're going to utilize that. Then we're going to go in and we're going to look at the past sales for the last 12 months. We want to see that there's a rotation, that there are enough houses being sold to make this make sense. And once we've identified that we've got enough rotation, and typically I like to see a 10% at least rotation in that neighborhood, then we're going to see if there is a dominant player as far as the listings in the neighborhood. Is there an agent that's possibly been farming this for years that it's going to make it more difficult? Listen, I'm not telling you to shy away from competition, but if we're going to choose a farm, let's choose one where there's not as much competition. I like to see that there's not an agent that has listed at least 20% of the properties in that neighborhood. Once we've identified that that's there, now let's look and see what the total sales volume was basically for the last 12 months. If we can do that, we can take the number of houses, the prices they've sold, identify the total sales volume, and we can identify whether if we get 10% of that farm next year as far as the listings, whether it's going to make sense. We're going to next step to getting to the budget of the portion of this, and that's where we're going to make sure that the numbers make sense. The second step in this process, now that we've identified a possible farm, is to develop a budget and make sure that the numbers make sense. So if we've done this and we've seen that, for instance, we're going to have a certain amount of gross commission income coming if we get 10% of those houses next year. I want to then break it down, and I like to do this to be very conservative, $2 per household that we're going to spend on advertising, on mailers, on some promotions we're going to talk about in just a minute, to make sure that we've got that. So just to make the numbers easy, if we're looking at this and we're saying there are 100 people in that neighborhood and we're going to be spending $2 per month, it's basically going to cost us $24 a month. So we're looking roughly at $2,400 for the year that it's going to cost us to farm that neighborhood. Now, has there been a position where we could at least get 10% of the listings that came in there? If we're looking at this and we saw that 10 houses sold last year, all we need is one listing to make this make sense. So now we're at a place where we can really do these numbers. Now I'm using this on a low scale. And when you look at this, you're probably going to have more houses, you're probably going to have more listings, you're probably going to have more opportunity. But I want to be conservative with this. If we see that we can make sure that we can make at least 4 times our money with 10% of that budget, then obviously with getting 10% of those listings, then obviously we got a farm that's going to make a lot of sense. All right, so now we found a farm, we found the place, we know that the numbers make sense as long as we can get 10%. I promise you, if you follow this pattern, you're going to get 10% of these listings. The next step, the third step, is to go out and get the information about the owners. The more information we have about them, the better. It's going to be pretty easy for us to get their mailing addresses, because all we've got to do really is go into the tax rolls, or maybe there's another system you've got. Some people can use their title company to get this information for them, but basically it gives you the ability to get the mailing addresses for those folks. It would be great to go ahead and grab the telephone numbers for these folks. Also, it would be great if you can get the email addresses, because that takes it to a whole other level. And if you're curious about how to do digital farming, you can check this link out above, or if you're listening to this on the podcast, you can get that in the show notes. But basically what we need to do is we need to make sure that we've got the information so that we can reach out to these folks and add value to them. Fourth step is developing a communications calendar for 1 year. I want to just say this. A lot of people will start farming, they'll send one mailer out and they'll say, well, that didn't work because they didn't get any response. Literally, it's going to take 4 to 5 times of you reaching out to these folks where they're going to begin to recognize you. I think some of the statistics say it's 7 to 9 times that people get exposed to something before they really begin to recognize that as someone that they recognize, and they recognize them for what they do. So we really need to be consistent with this. Consistency is key. That's why if you're going to go into a farm, I want you to commit to 1 year's worth of marketing to that place. So if we're looking at that now, what does this communication calendar look like? I'm going to start with the mailers. We need to to have at least once a month a mailer going out. Now I like to mix these mailers up. The first mailer at the end of each quarter needs to be active pending solds for the past month in that neighborhood. This just gives them general information about what's going on in the neighborhood. Also gives you an opportunity really not to sell but to provide information. We're going to have a soft call to action at the end of this. It basically says if you're curious about your home value, don't hesitate to reach out. I'll be glad to give you a free, no obligation updated valuation analysis of your place. We're very soft with this. That's the first month. The second month, what I like to do is I like to go in and give them some value about what's going on in the community. This is something where I would talk about upcoming festivals. I would talk about things that are happening in the neighborhood, and I might highlight one house in the neighborhood, or I might even just basically say, listen, if you have questions about what's going on in the real estate market, specifically in XYZ neighborhood, please reach out. I'd love to be your resource. Very soft on this mailer as well. Again, we're just building brand recognition. We're doing those things where we're doing it on a consistent basis. The third month, what I like to do is I like to go in and give an overall view of what's going on in the real estate market. So we've been very specific on the neighborhood. Now we're doing one where we're doing one overall in the general city or the area. This gives us the ability, really, if we're doing multiple farms, to have one mailer that we're doing to all the different farms also on the third month. Then we just rinse and repeat. We start back. First month of the next quarter, so the fourth month, we're going to do again neighborhood update on sales, active pending solds. Then we're going to talk about the community the next month. Then we're going to give them an overall market view. If you do this consistently, you're going to begin to see that people begin to recognize you. You may catch lightning in a bottle. You're going to catch people right at the right time sometimes. But odds are it's going to take 3 to 4 mailers where you'll begin to see some of the results in this. Another thing that I like to do is to start thinking about some of the things we're going to do to really put some gas on this fire, and that's what we're going to talk about next. The fifth step is planning special events for that neighborhood or for that group. This is where we really get personal with the folks. This gives us the opportunity really to stand out from everybody else. I've seen this where people will do this every 6 months, maybe every 3 months, but typically there's at least one annual get-together for the neighborhood. This could be where you sponsored a food truck night. You could go in, you could have the food trucks come in, you work with the HOA to come in for one night. Basically, you just give them, you have to guarantee like $750 for the food. If the people don't spend it, you do the difference, but you put this together. When you host the party, you get the opportunity to see everybody as they come in. Maybe you have something that you give away like a dessert or just some information, but you're hanging out with the neighbors. I've also heard of other people going and they would take the park area and they would actually do family photos. They would hire a photographer for the day. They would come in, they would make sure that everybody in the neighborhood knew by sending out mailers. Again, we're getting back to this promotion cost of $2 per month, or basically $2 per month per household. Now they're doing this where they'd have a photographer come in, have a day where they would have this. A kind of an interesting twist on this is that some people are actually doing pet photography in those, and they're actually drawing crowds in from people in the neighborhood. Again, these are ways that we're branding ourselves as the expert in the neighborhood, as the neighbor or the person that is to be talked to for anything as far as the neighborhood's real estate resources are gone. What happens with this is it also creates this environment where even if the people don't know you, their neighbors know you. So when they hear that their neighbor's doing, you need to talk to Jimmy. This gives us the ability to really reach out to people in a unique way, add some value to the neighborhood, and really stand out. The sixth part is being seen in the neighborhood. Now, we talked about special promotions, but I love the way that what some agents will do is they will actually make sure that when they're going to do their morning walk or their afternoon walk, they actually do it in their farm neighborhoods. They plan every single day. Glenda Baker out of Atlanta started her luxury business by pushing her baby in a stroller in the luxury neighborhood. She would park her car, walk every evening there, saying hey to everybody in the neighborhood, became someone that they recognized just about every day. They would see her, they were getting home from work or they were out moving around, or they were just out talking to people. It gave her a great opportunity. Also, what is it that you're doing? If you're going to exercise, go spend some time running around that neighborhood, jogging around that neighborhood, riding bike around that neighborhood, walking your dog around that neighborhood, whatever it is. Spend time in the neighborhood. Become someone that people are used to seeing, and you'll be the person that they choose when it's time for them to buy or sell real estate. The seventh step is to stay consistent. I said it a little bit earlier, but I have to tell you, most people stop. There's a great book called 3 Feet from Gold. And basically what that says is that most people stop right before they reach the gold. Typically, when you're looking at farming, most people begin farming, and right before they hit that tipping point, before they become the neighborhood expert or the agent of choice for that neighborhood, for most everybody in the neighborhood, they stop going because they haven't seen results. So to wrap this up, make sure you stay consistent. Make sure you add value to the neighborhood. Make sure that they see you often in the neighborhood, and I promise real estate farming will be key to your real estate success. Take care, and I'll talk to you soon. Thanks for watching the video. I specifically chose the video below for you because it builds on the one you just watched. I hope it's helpful, and I'll talk to you soon.